All right, I am announcing the official release of the BB30 AI Max and BB30 AI Lite Plus. These are two slightly different indicators built on the general same technology, and one of them just allows for more customization. The other one is a bit more for beginners. There will be a bit of an adjustment to the pricing and all that for new members. So if you are not locked in as a member currently and want to be, I would recommend doing that very soon, because in the next week the pricing will go up and change. And for those who are already locked in, it will be what you've always been under. But yeah, some really, really powerful new releases and even more coming. So very stoked about this. You can see this tool right here. It's the Max version. Now I do have the extended version of TradingView. It's like the Pro Ultimate or whatever their name for it is, but it goes back through 40K bars of history. So I do have more bars of history, or the most possible bars of history. But I'll go ahead and turn this on so we can see exactly when this starts. It looks like, yeah, so the beginning of 2023 until now, and you can see 173% profitable, which is pretty incredible, with only a 6% drawdown. So that's just insane. Profit factor of 1.9, almost 2 basically. And decent amount of trades. Now it is a less amount of trades, so that's kind of the trade-off, right? So if you have a higher profit factor, the amounts of trades will be less. So that's in about 430 trades in 2.5 years, not quite 2.5 years. So that probably means about a trade every other day. Some days we'll get a couple trades, like Tuesday here got 2 trades, but then nothing over the last couple days, over I guess Wednesday and beginning of Thursday. But yeah, just really, really incredible. So I'm going to give a really quick overview of these, and then actually right after I'm doing this, I will record a little bit more in-depth video on these. But yeah, so what's new is the table here that kind of shows you support and resistance, and it has a combined score just to kind of help give a little bit of, if you want to trade by hand and do things more manually, I would recommend going into replay trading and replaying a bit of the history and kind of seeing what happens. But you can get a few extra trades if you want, if you're going to go off the combined score here. However, it is not back tested, so there's no guarantee that it's going to give you quite the same results as these. But if you want to be a little bit more risky, or yeah, just mess around with that some, it's a nice tool to have. And you can see the bands now generally do nicely catch the lows a bit more. Over here, obviously, there was a good downtrend where it was bouncing off the lows, but it did not have an actual bounce until over here. But these last 2 closes here, really last 3, this one caught a little bit of bounce, this one caught a bigger bounce. So if you're watching the combined score, you can kind of buy at a little bit better times. And this is actually live. So what this is looking at is if price action is lower than the bands, the combined score will be quite a bit higher and could give you an even better entry. So try to find it over here, little ways. Well, or combined if you're doing a short. Though these bands are currently more optimized for long strategies, you can go in and optimize them for short and then play off of that for short strategies. But yeah, so if price wicks quite a ways below the support, it'll give you a really high combined score here, really high proximity score, and you can take some trades off of that. And probably again, I would really recommend looking at replay trading and getting a feel for it, and not just trading blindly, because you have to have somewhat of a plan still. But so right here, the combined score would have been really high, and you can see it got a nice bounce all the way to the midline, and then even a rest of the bounce all the way up to the resistance line. So yeah, that's kind of what I've done this. Again, like here, this is another place where the combined score would have been really high. It got a really nice bounce to the midline, but did go lower before it got a bounce to the resistance line. So again, it's not going to be the exact same every time. Let me jump into the internal part of this real fast. So we have the Exponent AI that we've had in the last few versions of the bumper bands. This will be a part of even the... So I'm going to have a few other versions coming out that are... Actually, I guess one more version coming out that's a very simplified... it's kind of like basically what we have been using before AI was introduced. And it'll still have this one section, but it won't have a lot of these other additional sections. But it'll be, yeah, just kind of the most simplified version of the tool that's still accessible and usable. So we have this AI, Exponent AI, which basically lets you trade on all different time frames, turn your chart to any time frame. Now, this definitely is more, what's it called, optimized for the 30-minute time frame right now. I have gone through and optimized these settings, all of these settings for the 30-minute. But if you want to set it on a different time frame and go through and re-optimize it, it'll work on any time frame. And you can also set this. It's kind of gives it a little bit of a tooltip here, but you can set it to +1, -1, or anywhere in between, and fine tune it a little bit more for the time frame. I kind of put this in a bit of the order that I would personally build with it. So I would start, if I put it on a different asset or different time frame. This will probably be fine for all 30-minute time frames, but if you're going to another time frame that's quite a bit further outside, maybe the 10-minute or 2-hour or 4-hour, something like that, you may mess with that a little bit. And then go to reliability section, and then go to the support and resistant layer sections, and then the validation, all that stuff. So that's kind of like, I try to build it in the order that would be best to optimize for different time frames and different assets. So yeah, this is, I'll go through and make a little bit more in-depth video right after this, but these are the sections we're looking at. The newest sections are midline, support and midline validation, and resistance and midline validation. So that basically is looking at how the past price action has interacted with the bands, very, very recent past interactions. And usually once price to touch the midline or support before going into a entry flag, and so, or an entry for a trade. So that's what that section will do. That's the same for the resistance. It will kind of look at how resistance has been respecting, how price has been respecting the resistance band. This is a little bit of scaling. I don't really use this very much at all, and I may or may not use it in the future. If it doesn't seem useful for anybody or for myself, I will probably end up simplifying and taking it out, but it's there for now. And then we have our flag section. So the signal flags are, this section only adjusts the signal flags and kind of gives you higher probability entries for those, and it looks at volatility based on the bands and trend based on the bands. So it's, you got your support section, your resistance section, if you're going to look at resistance flags or support flags right here. Usually you probably don't want all of these. Like if I'm doing a long strategy, I want to make it I want to make it harder for the trade to enter and pretty easy for the trade to exit, because that means, again, it's a little bit more of a scalping strategy mindset, I guess. But again, yeah, I kind of want it to be entering only at the best, most optimal places, and I want it to exit as soon as I'm in profit, or pretty soon after I'm in profit. Because a lot of times you see price action will go up, and then if I had, over optimized the exit flags, it would not have exited there, and price would have come back down. But in this case, we got a nice scalp right there. And again, if you wanted to kind of trade by hand and be a little more risky trading with the combined score and stuff, you can maybe even get some other extra entries and exits right there. But right now I have it currently set where on entry flags, or support flags, it enters on support flags and exits on resistance flags. And that just is a plot. It's 0 if there's no flag, and it's 1 if there is a flag. So you can still do the old way of building, where the and again, if you looking at this, it's very, very, very simple strategy. It just has the flags, a weekday filter, and then the Keltner channel with percentile is part of it, and that's literally it, besides some risk. And I will say right now the risk is very, very minimal. So for those of you who see this strategy in the Discord, I definitely would recommend optimizing the risk a little bit, and I did mess around with it. It makes backtesting into higher volatility parts of the market worse. So this has an incredible backtest. I'll go ahead and, I guess, hit that real fast while we're going through other stuff. But yeah, the backtest results are just phenomenal right now. If I was to put on like a percent risk, they would definitely get a little bit worse for the full backtest history, but probably would be a little bit more optimal for current price action. So what I would do is, if personally I was trading the strategy right now, I would probably turn this 3.3 max stop loss on as a limit, and maybe even the max take profit on. Again, if you backtest with those on, the backtest results are a bit worse, but that's because there was times when Bitcoin was moving, 5-10% in a day or a trade, and the stop loss would cut out trades super early on. Again, when you're moving, you have the swings of 5% or 10% price action going on. You're going to get stopped out a ton. So this is more for recent price action. If you just want to be really, really lenient, you could put it at like 9 or even like 10. And if it was me, I probably would put it, if I was wanting to trade very leniently and only protect against black swan events, something like that, I'd probably put it at a 10 limit order. And so that way, worst case scenario, I get protected, but it also has the possibility of going down 10% and then stopping out at the worst place and then bouncing back. But I would personally, again, just as not financial advice, I would rather be protected against just a cataclysmic event than not. So that's what's going on there. Literally nothing else is going on in this skeleton key, and you can see pretty incredible results. Again, still the past history was way more choppy back in like 2016, 2017, when price action was just pretty nuts. Really choppy. And as time goes on and price stabilizes a little bit, it gets way more smooth. You can see this here is the bear market period from 2021, 22, somewhere around there. And it did go down again. Let's see, 538 to 506, so almost 30%. I know that doesn't look like much when you have 600% gain, but that is a good 30%. Just 28% drawdown, which is, if you're trading at leverage, that's a huge drawdown in your account. So very important not to start trading too risky when you are at the end of a bull market. So what I kind of watch for is, if we've had a long trending period up, I start getting a little bit more protective. So currently, we've just had this huge run over the last, this is about 3 years. And right now, I'm currently way more protective against some downside. The last few months of a bull market will definitely be usually where the biggest gains happen, but also could be if you don't protect against some losses and you're trading your full position sizes, you could get caught in a bear market pretty fast. So again, just my thoughts. None of this is financial advice, and we very well may have a few more months of bull or even longer. But that's just my general thoughts. And if I do turn on the stop loss of like 3%, this does get a bit less of a drawdown here. So that's kind of nice. But anyway, all right. So that's plenty to get into the max. I think I've kind of talked about everything. Again, this strategy is in the Discord, and I will make a video. The other thing I guess I haven't touched on yet is the smoothing. So these are master band smoothing and offset. So because I made it harder for it to exit, because it has to price action has to follow this resistance filter in order to exit. So this is a trending filter. And because I made it harder for it to exit, I actually put the smoothing up so that price action could break the resistance band a little bit easier. So what smoothing does is it generally makes price able to enter. If you're messing with higher support smoothing, it enters easier, or if you're higher resistance smoothing, it exits the trade, or price closes above the resistance band a bit easier. So that's kind of why I turned the resistance smoothing up there. all of these are very new ideas, so I would also say the caveat of this whole thing is this strategy and general, all of these new tools have only been in the testing for like a month maybe, and I generally want 3 months to 6 months of testing to really know everything's worked out. So if you do see little bugs here and there, please let me know. I think I've worked out most all of them. I do think that's pretty much everything I need to talk about here. The light version I've just briefly mentioned is a very simplified version, so it just has the reliability, exponent, and validation section, as well as it still has the index section and the short, and this one actually has an extra filter, so the short term or vitality can be applied to support, resistance, or both, instead of having separate ones for support, separate one for resistance. So you can apply to one or the other. And because it was a little more simplified, I actually added a second trend filter, which is more long-term, short-term and long-term. Again, I'll get into these videos, these descriptions and all that stuff a little bit more in my specialized video for these tools. But yeah, that's kind of what's going on with these. This is a real quick strategy I built for SUI, and you can see that it is freaking insane, 300% in the last, what is this, like 2 years, just barely 2 years. However, you know, SUI has gone on a massive run in that time, so of course it's done super well. And then I got a Bitcoin version with the light, also just really incredible stats, though not quite as good as the max version, but over time, it's if I do a deep back test, it's basically just as good. So that is the general idea. I'm going to leave it off there, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoy these new tools, and I will see you all in the next video. Watch out for these new in-depth videos coming out here in the next probably day or so. All right, talk to you all in the next one.